And the 2024 tank is officially on as the Jets lose in what could be considered the perfect way to the Miami Dolphins on the road. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. That was a doozy, folks. Listen, when it comes to tank, no tank, on the one hand, I say tank and improve your draft position. But while I'm watching the games unfold, I have a very difficult time not rooting for them to win. So it's almost like, if they win, I'm happy, especially because who doesn't hate the Dolphins? Everybody hates the Dolphins. And if they lose, you're mad. So it's a tricky balance. I can't go full bore 100% either way. But a perfect loss. Why perfect? Well, you saw some good things from the kids. Entertaining football game. The Jets haven't even been that for a very long time. So it was entertaining. There were plays made. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams both had big days. Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen both looked good out of the backfield. They did some good things on offense. Aaron Rodgers throws for 300 yards for the first time since high school. Fantastic in a lot of ways. But they lose. And not just lose, they crumble. You had Rodgers drive them down the field, get them a field goal lead, less than a minute to play, but less than a minute. Let's face it, good defense. In today's NFL, less than a minute, teams are quick, offenses are fast. I mean, you're still going to have to defend a few plays. But what happens? You come out, you blow the kick coverage, you allow a 40-yard return. Miami only needs a couple plays to get in field goal range, and they do it, and they hit the field goal and tie it. Sends the game to overtime, and the Jets come out in overtime sleepwalking. Miami just boom, boom, big play, big play, big play, big play, touchdown, game over. Jonnu Smith didn't have a single catch the whole game. That final drive, 18 catches for 300 yards, scores the game-winning touchdown. Absolutely ridiculous. Jets no-show in crunch time. So it's frustrating on the one hand, but then the draft position thing is tough, right? I do not envision a scenario in which the New York Jets will be in position to get a quarterback in this draft. Why? Because of the Jacksonville Jaguars win today. I thought if Jacksonville loses out and they finish with that top pick, they probably take Travis Hunter with that pick. Even though I did a recent mock and I said Cam Ward. Not Cam Ward. That was stupid. Travis Hunter is going to be the number one pick if the Jacksonville Jaguars are picking one. Jacksonville wins today. Now they're knocked down a few spots. Now you've got the Raiders. You've got the Giants. The Jets are 7th. Okay? You've got the Raiders and the Giants ahead of them. That, to me, looks an awful lot like Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, 1-2. So while we can sit here and root for losses for a chance at a quarterback, I don't see it happening. The Giants, you see them winning another game. The Raiders, Aiden O'Connell stinks and he got hurt today. I don't know how badly he's hurt, but I saw him walking off and Desmond Ridder getting on the phone. But the Raiders and Giants have a very good chance to lose out. The Jets, listen, they almost stole one today. They might steal one win before the end of the season. So on the one hand, I get wanting draft position, but on the other, I don't see a world in which they're in 1 or 2. I don't see a situation where they trade up because those teams need quarterbacks who are at 1 and 2. So if you're the Dolphins, or if you're the Giants, if you're the Raiders, you're not moving out of 1 and 2. That's where you need to be. So the Jets, as far as I'm concerned, they're not going to have a shot. Go ahead and get, Grant, or any of the. There's a couple of tackles in this class that I would gladly take. I said Graham, or go ahead and get Deion Walker later on. Like plug that middle. Although let's be fair to the Jets, the run defense has improved in recent weeks. It's been better. Not that anyone gives a damn, not that it matters. The other thing that's been better in recent weeks that nobody cares about because they're not winning, the offensive line has been better. You look, Max Mitchell filled in for Morgan Moses today. Moses injured himself during warmups, injured his wrist, had to leave the game. Mitchell wasn't great, but he in my mind, better than he looked at any point last year. And I said that a lot during the preseason. I said, look, these are only preseason games, but Max Mitchell to me looks better than he looked at any point last year. Now we saw him play extended action in a game that was, granted, it didn't matter, but it was a regular season actual football game. The team was, you can't tell me the effort wasn't there, like especially on offense. They were getting the job done. So Mitchell didn't look great, but he looked good enough. But Aaron Rodgers was sacked, 3 or 4 times? And I think I can only think of one that was really on the O-line. And even that, I think Miami may have had the numbers. They may have just sent more rushers than the Jets had blockers. I have to see that replay. But a couple of those sacks were Aaron Rodgers just holding onto the ball forever, or nobody being open and Rodgers having to hold onto the football. Both running backs 4 or 5 yards a carry, so that we're seeing this every single week. Rodgers, I'd say the Jets are on about a 7-week run now, where the running backs are at 4+ per carry, which is where you want to be, and Rodgers is having time to throw. I mean, the offensive line has been fine. Olu had a couple of bad reps today, but look, he's a rookie. You're going to have that. By and large, did a really nice job protecting the blind side. So Olu had himself a nice game. Simpson, as we've said, has been fantastic. So look, let's just give credit where it's due. And look, Keith Carter, right? We ripped Keith Carter to shreds for weeks and months, and we thought it might be years, but he's got this unit playing better now. Whether it's the time, now that they've had a couple of months to work together. We talked about how Robert Saleh didn't run these guys out there in any games during the preseason, which we thought may come back to bite them, and it did. Offensive line took a long time to gel, but I've been saying for a while now, because I still see it. I still see people saying, how are they supposed to win when nobody can block? I'm like, the blocking's been fine. Right now, okay, look, I get it. PFF, they don't know anything. Look, they're not useless. Some of their info is pretty solid. Right now, the Jets, despite as bad as they were early in the year, when I looked a couple of weeks ago, they were bang on middle of the pack, like 14th, 15th in the NFL, overall offensive line play. And they've had a few good games since then. So I would imagine one thing you used to be able to do on PFF, I don't think you can anymore. I'd like to see the Jets rankings over the last 8 weeks versus all other teams and see if I wouldn't be surprised if they're top 12, top 10. So the offensive line hasn't been bad. I think it's finally there. It took some time. It took guys staying healthy, but I think Olu's going to be a really good tackle. Simpson's been phenomenal. Tippmann has been very good. AVT was off to a slow start this year. He's been good. And Morgan Moses at right tackle. Again, Mitchell played all right today. Again, I'm not saying he was a stud. People do this thing where you say somebody was okay today, and it's like, oh, he sucked because he wasn't Trent Williams. He sucked. But I thought Max Mitchell, for the most part, held his own. He had a couple of whiffs. He had some bad plays, but look, when you're talking backup offensive linemen, Jets fans should know as well as anyone, some of those guys come in and it's game over. Let's see. Martin says, at least we had some spirit today. Decent rookie performances, which is a plus. Absolutely. That's what I opened up with, Martin. I wholly agree. My info says the Jets to lose the next 4 games, probably, and they still get the number 7 pick. I think that's possible, but somebody in there's got to win a game. You're not going to have all teams in the top 7 lose all the rest of their games. Somebody's going to win a game or two. So if the Jets lose the next 4, how far could they move up in the draft? Just depends on what the guys in front of them do, right? Like New England with Drake May. Drake May has looked really good at times. I wouldn't be surprised if they steal a win. Carolina played Philly tough today. They're not going to lay down for anybody. And since Bryce Young's come back, they've been playing much better football. Carolina, I don't know let's see what the rest of Carolina's schedule looks like. They've got Dallas. I mean, does Dallas have a quarterback right now? They've got Arizona, who's, okay. Solid. Tampa Bay, solid. And then you got Atlanta, who's not, they're wildly inconsistent. You never know which version of them is going to show up. And the way the Panthers have played in recent weeks, I would have no problem going out on a limb and saying they win a game. New England, who does New England have left? They've got Arizona, Buffalo, the Chargers, and Buffalo. New England, I'll tell you what, that week 17 game, that final game of the week or of the year against Buffalo, that could be a Buffalo resting all of their starters type of draft or type of game affecting the draft. So Cleveland, we saw Jameis have that monster game a couple weeks ago, went out and lost today to Pittsburgh, but they've got Kansas City, so that's a loss. They've got Cincinnati. Cincinnati, you don't know what the hell you're going to get with that team. Then you've got Miami, the second to last game of the year, and then you've got Baltimore to close out the season. So that Cincinnati game is probably big, I would say, for the Browns. That could be a potential win for them. So there are games out there that teams could steal a win. And, even looking at the Jets, they nearly pulled that damn thing off today, found a way to lose it as they always do. But they have Jacksonville next. The Jets could 1,000,000% beat Jacksonville. I don't. I wouldn't bet 'em. I wouldn't bet on them to beat anyone right now. But that is the last winnable game on the schedule, I would say. And then you got Miami at home, which will probably be a mostly empty stadium. Dolphins fans, I would imagine by then will have no reason to come out. Jets fans will have no reason to come out. So that January 5th game could just be two teams in front of nobody. Bring back the COVID cardboard cutouts and see what happens there. So it's going to be there are some winnable games on the schedules for these teams that are very bad. Again, you look at somebody like Tennessee, and they beat Houston 2 weeks ago, but they've got Cincy. Again, Cincy, you have no idea what you're going to get from them. Indy probably wins that game. Then they've got Jacksonville, and then they've got Houston, who's been up and down. So, look, teams. I don't see any world. There isn't. There's no way these top 7 teams. Some of them play each other. So everyone in front of the Jets is not going winless the rest of the way. So we're going to see some stuff. We'll see some shaking up in that top 7. But again, I don't see anyone else cracking into the top 2. The Giants, what was the final score with the Giants? It was like 14-11 when I last looked. They may have tied it, but I know they lost. So let's see. NFL is unforgiving. 3 to 5 bad teams, and the rest anyone can beat anyone. That's the thing, Martin. Like you see wild outcomes. I didn't think there was any way. I mean, not that Tennessee is that good, but I thought Jacksonville was going to lose out for sure once Trevor went down. But they go out and win today. I mean, ugly game. I saw the score, which told me it was an ugly game. But then you've got Seattle here beating Arizona 17-10. That's still early on though. But man, did I like Zach Charbonnet. I think he's going to be a really good one. But yeah, so it's all a toss-up. But the Jets, back to the Jets today against the Dolphins. Like I said, they did some things on offense. It was a fun game to watch. There was reason to cheer, but you kind of knew they'd blow it. Let's mention a couple of guys real quick. Ross says Woody needs to sell the team. Here's what I say about that all the time, Ross, when people tell me that. Anytime somebody says Woody needs to sell the team, my immediate answer is, would you? No, you wouldn't. You would not sell the team, and neither Woody is not selling the team. Woody is going to pass that team on to one of his sons when he's ready to step aside, and it's going to stay in the Johnson. That's my prediction. I'm not, I could be. He might sell it tomorrow. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. It'd be nice if he did, Ross. Don't get me wrong. The one constant over all these many years of losing and losing and losing and losing has been Woody Johnson, and really, the only time you can say he wasn't to blame for what happened. That's because he thought it was more important to be the ambassador to the UK, which, look, I get that it's a cool title, cool experience. Nice to be able to say you did it. But, it's America and England. Like, they're the 2 friendliest nations in the world. What are you doing as the ambassador? Calming tensions? It's, but whatever. I get it. It's cool. I'd do it too. Hell, I live in England. That'd be a cool post. I'm sure the money's pretty good. So yeah, Raw, he's been in charge over 20 years, not produced once. Absolutely. The Jets really were only credible under him when Parcells fell on his lap. Hall of Fame coach who, really just went to the front office though. And then Belichick leaves. So like Woody comes on and Bill Parcells like, I'm not coaching for you, but I'll go upstairs and be the GM for a bit. And then Belichick steps in, looks at him and says, I'm not working for you. I'm out of here. And then he gets Grow, but at least Parcells put a foundation in place that made them good. And of course they had a couple good years under Rex. But that's it. That's been it. A handful of playoff wins in 22 years, and a lot more embarrassment than achievement for this team. So, but again, I wanted to throw out a couple of names of guys real quick. Some of these I've already mentioned, but Brandon Eccles, I thought had himself a really nice game. I tweeted it out. Every time you play that guy, he plays well. There was a play early on in the game. Miami ran a misdirection. Everybody on the defense fell for it except Brandon Eccles. You could literally see the entire defense flowing from right to left, and Brandon Eccles was the only guy following the play, made the tackle on Tyreek Hill to prevent a big play. He had at least one PBU. Just did a nice job. Just plays well every time he plays. Max Mitchell, who I mentioned, again, wasn't great, but was formidable. Not even formidable. He held his own. He did what he did the best you could expect Max Mitchell to do, right? Because there are days when Max Mitchell is getting put in a blender, and you don't want to see that. And you think just get in there, just be average, slightly below average, you can live with. What you don't want is go in there and get dominated. And Max Mitchell had some good reps. He had some bad, but all in all, I mean, when you see him come in the game, you hold your breath and you're like, oh, what are we going to get today? And you got solid. He wasn't bad. So good job for him. Jamie Sherwood, another monster game. I think he had 12, 13 tackles, at least one PBU. He looked like he was getting. There were a couple plays early on where he was the closest man, but the closest man on a reception. But it's Waddle, it's Tyreek Hill running crossers behind him. I'm not expecting Jamie Sherwood to be able to keep up with Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. So that's not the end of the world. Running backs, Braylon Allen. Let's grab the box score real quick. Braylon Allen had himself a decent day, 11 for 43, so it's 3.9. And then Isaiah Davis, 10 for 40, that's 4. So basically 21 for 84, which is, a tenth of a yard below 4 a carry. So if you're living at 4 a carry, you're fine. As I said, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, they combined for 123 yards on 16 catches and a touchdown. The touchdown was for Adams. Garrett Wilson was absolutely ridiculously wide open deep down the field at one point, and Rodgers threw him a ball that was catchable, but basically had him, go out of bounds. It was so close to the sideline, he couldn't stay in bounds, but it was an easy 6 if Rodgers hits him in stride. Let's see. Danny says Jets, what they needed to do, just keep losing. Like I said, I get it, man. It's a weird thing. On the one hand, I'm like, lose the games, improve the draft position. But when I'm sitting there watching the damn game, especially like I said, like if you're my age and you grew up in the Dan Marino era, there's never been a fan base that like they say this about Jets fans, but if you were around for that era, there has never been a fan base that talks more about how good they're going to be and everything they're going to win and never delivered. It was the Dolphins. I mean, literally, Marino, we added this player, we added that weapon, we fixed this, we got that, Marino, and they never won. Like every single year it was, here's why we're going to win now. And Marino rarely, they just weren't good. Or I take that back. They were good, but they were never nearly as good as the fans thought they were because of Marino. And that, like I said, so many years of that. In my formative years as a fan, I always look at the Dolphins like, give me a break. So I wanted them to win that game for that sense, but the fan taking a step back, being rational, what's ideal for the team? What's ideal for the team is better draft position, which, again, at this point, I mentioned Mason Graham because he's the guy that I kind of have my eye on it for where I think the Jets will be picking 6, 7, 8. I think he would be the guy to go with. Tedero McMillan would be another guy, obviously, in that spot. Luther Burden, like, there are some options there. But this is why I look at you have to lose out. Again, having said, I don't see them getting a quarterback. I don't know that it's going to matter if they're picking 5th or 8th or 9th or 11th or 6th. There's going to be a player in there who can help them right away who won't be a quarterback. And that's why I don't feel like a win today would have killed their draft position, because they're not going to get up to 1 or 2. And as I said before, I think the only option, Dylan just chimed in. That was the next name I was going to mention. Abdul Carter, Penn State, played linebacker, has transitioned to edge. He can drop back and be an off-ball linebacker, versatile player, explosive player, sideline to sideline linebacker. So Abdul Carter, every time I think Abdul Carter, I wonder what would that mean for Quincy Williams? Would the Jets, would they jettison him, or do you just find another role for Abdul Carter? Because again, the guy is absolutely a stud. So he would be up there with Mason Graham as a guy that I would want the Jets to take if they're at 6 or 7, wherever they are. I just don't see them they won't be in position for a quarterback. As I've mentioned, Coach Prime has already said, I'm paraphrasing here. Coach Prime has basically said, if you don't know how to develop a quarterback, I'm going to call you behind the scenes and tell you not to draft my son. Now, we don't know who the Jets are going to bring in yet, but I would imagine Coach Prime is going to look at the Jets and their history and just say no. So I really think the only quarterback the Jets have a shot at is Cam Ward. And if Cam Ward goes on the top 2, as I expect, the Jets will not be in the running. And it was how invisible. I mean, he made one tackle, but Hassan Reddick, how much money, dude? He loses the holdout money, but well, I guess the Jets gave most of it back because they're doormats. But that dude wanted what 30 million. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, and I saw that, Dylan. I was going to mention that at some point. I saw the headline and that was all I needed to see. I didn't click the video. But apparently Prime was at an event and told Antonio Pierce, draft my kid, which is weird because the Raiders don't have the best track record of developing quarterbacks, but they got that nice stadium. It's Vegas. I can see the draw. So yeah, Coach Prime told Antonio Pierce, draft my son. They are now sitting there with the number 1 pick. And that could be what's driving it too. Maybe Prime is looking at it like they're going to be picking 1 because they stink. And so that's where that's basically the Raiders, hold all the cards now with the number 1 pick. Will Antonio Pierce be there? We'll have to see about that. But back to this Braylon Allen. Let's get back to some of the good performances. I mentioned Braylon Allen. Both he and Isaiah Davis caught the ball out of the backfield a little bit today. Braylon had 4 for 38. Isaiah Davis had 3 for 27. Allen Lazard had more penalties than catches. He had a couple of flags, but 1 catch for 18 yards. Jeremy Ruckert, man. Like, what? We can root for the guy as hard as we want. You can want the dude to be the dude. And I do root hard for Jeremy Ruckert. But 1 target, right in his hands, drop. When you don't get many opportunities, you got to make something with the ones you get. And he just does not do that. This box score has Jamin Sherwood down for 13 solo. Well, it says 13 tackles, 5 assists. That might mean 8 solo. Either way, he had a ton of tackles. Brandon Eccles had 9. No interceptions again. The Jets do not do that. They do not intercept footballs. They do not. Well, they did not today. They did not sack the quarterback. So all in all, bad effort from the defense that, like I said, got absolutely steamrolled, smoked, however you want to put it. Just not a good showing at all. Let's see. Had a comment here that I wanted to check on. No. Oh no, he never replied. I didn't know if he was in the chat. What is it? Mark Williams. Look, we love engaging. We love hopping on here, talking with you guys, answering questions, throwing out questions. And someone said there was a question we avoided last week. I don't avoid any questions. There are times where a topic where we drag it out, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to beat a dead horse and address the 18th question about the same topic that we've already answered. So I don't know. I asked him to send his question back in, but I didn't see it. But please, Mark, at any time, hop in, remind me who you are, throw us a question. I say we. It's just me right now. But, Dylan, Chris, any variation, combination of us when we're available. Thursday nights, be sure to tune in, Jet Nation Radio. But the Dolphins on offense had stretches where they were absolutely unstoppable, and the Jets had no answer for Tua, who went 33 of 47. Jets, like I said, the run defense, they held A-Chain to 24 on 14 carries. And Jalen Wright, the rookie out of Tennessee, 7 yards on 2 carries. That's a hell of a job. But then on offense, Tyreek Hill, 115 and a touchdown on 10 catches. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, for Tyreek Hill, I think that's only his second 100-yard game of the year. The other one being opening weekend. Jalen Waddle, just under 109 for 99. And then Jonnu Smith, who had, as I said, 0 catches in regulation, goes 3 for 44 on the final drive and a touchdown. So big showing for him in crunch time. As I said, the sacks. Miami had 3. I thought 2 of them were on Rodgers, at least 2. And the one, if nobody's open, he's holding onto the ball. That you don't want him to throw a pick. But still, and the broadcast said it. I think it was Trent Green who said, I'm not putting this sack on the O-line. This is Rodgers running around, which, fine, run around, try to make a play. But O-line, all in all, as I said, give credit where it's due. Keith Carter has done a good job of getting these guys to start playing at a higher level. If I'm gonna rip a guy when they stink, I'll give him credit if they improve. What he's done behind the scenes, no idea. I just know that the guy has had a unit that's been mostly bad for most of his time here. But now, look, maybe the continuity, the health, all that stuff played a bigger role. It's just hard to say that because you see other teams around the league have injuries and not miss a beat, or play it and still play well, if not great, um, and not completely fall apart, which is what has happened when his units have been injured. But with the health this year, they've been better. Um, Tony, the GM, says, Dylan, that would be great. Sanders has bust written all over him, talking about Shador. I don't know. I go back and forth on Shador. Um, way tougher than I anticipated, just because he's not that young, hungry kid that he might be if he wasn't, raised a millionaire. Um, and that's not like I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, I hate rich people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just like, I mean, I wish I was one of them, but I'm not. But I just don't. I didn't think Shador would have that heart to take the beatings he takes and keep getting up and keep playing well and keep making throws. So I'm like, man, before I watched him, I had an expectation, like, okay, millionaire kid, son of a Hall of Famer. What's his desire going to be like? And there's no questioning it at this point. But there are a lot of people, you hear a lot of people comment and say that they're not, he's a guy that I wouldn't take because, prima donna, which again, I don't see because of the beatings. To me, a prima donna doesn't take shots like that and walk off. I get that he's going to student sections and flashing his Rolex, which to me isn't the best look. But he's still a college kid. He's not an NFL quarterback yet. But of course, again, it's weird because he was raised in that environment. Um, but his dad wasn't the most humble guy. But what a player! You know what I mean? For anyone who grew up watching Deion Sanders play corner, return kicks, playing with the Yankees, I've talked about that as a Yankee fan growing up. So I don't know, man. Shador, I'm Team Cam Ward because I've been Team Cam Ward for a couple of years now. But my question is, and we'll get into this probably on this week's episode of Jet Nation Radio. Who's the quarterback that's going to sneak into round one? And really, will there be a fourth? Because I think Jalen Milroe sneaks in. I wouldn't take him. Way too many turnovers. I would, like I said, I would take Cam Ward. Milroe probably sneaks into the first round. Is there another quarterback that sneaks into the first round? Milroe might be it. He might be the third. Because really there are two guys who should. Another one always sneaks in. That could be him. But I look at a Jackson Dart and wonder where he goes. Could he sneak? If he has a good pre-draft process. Who shines at the Senior Bowl? Who shines in the bowl games? Drew Aller. I was just getting to the bowl games, right, Dylan? I guess they're not. Are they still bowl games or are they just CFP playoffs? I don't know what they're calling them. But in the playoffs, if Aller plays well and comes out, then he enters that conversation. This is going to be really big few weeks for a lot of these young men, a lot of these young quarterbacks. But for the Jets, bowl starts next week. Yeah, I get that, but are they calling them bowl games still as part of the playoffs, or are they just part of the playoffs? And I think Zach Charbonnet just had another monster TD run. He was so good at UCLA. He was ridiculous at UCLA. And he's picking up where he left off in the NFL. So Arizona's down 23-10, maybe about to be 24-10 on the Charbonnet touchdown. So we'll wrap this one up now. There's really not a lot left to say. The Jets are picking 7th. They are 3-10. They're not good. They have some good pieces in place. Again, we saw it today. We saw Garrett. We saw Devontae. We saw Olu. We saw the rookie running backs. The O-line as a whole wasn't bad today. There's some pieces. But what the new regime decides to do with those pieces remains to be seen. But I would say let's get Sherwood re-signed. Let's get Eccles re-signed. Start from there and see what happens. Next up, who's next up? I already forgot. We just talked about Was it Jacksonville? We literally just talked about who they play next. Yes. The Jets have the Jacksonville Jaguars up next. I think they win that game. No, I can't say that. I said I was not picking them again this year. So I'm picking Jacksonville to win. Jets stink. Jets are 3-10. GM search incoming. Head coach search incoming. Lots of draft talk incoming. That'll wrap this one up. Have a good one, Jets fans.